Welcome guys to our first video on the channel. Today we wanted to show you guys every best in slot legendary for each class and spec so you can all get ready to hunt them down in the next coming weeks. Before we start off though, let's discuss briefly how to unlock and craft these legendaries. In order to unlock the ability to craft your legendary, you'll need to unlock the Rune Carver. Rune Carver will be unlockable through Torghast's introductory questline, which will be available upon hitting 60 and joining your first covenant. The questline is simple, and they'll have you running around the mall doing tasks here and there. Upon completion, you'll be able to start your adventures through Torghast and enter the Rune Carver's chambers. In order to craft your legendary, you'll need the base item, depending on armor proficiency, so tailors will be able to make the cloth base, blacksmith plate, etc. The second item you'll need are two missives, which scribes will be able to make just to give you the power to choose which secondary stats you'll have on your gear. The third item is Soul Ash, which is something you'll gradually get for completed hauls in Torghast. And lastly, your final item will be Memories, which we are here to show you how to get each best in slot for raids and Mythic Plus push-in runs. So Blood Death Knights share a best in slot for both raids and push-in Mythic Plus runs. Bryndaur's Might is randomly obtained through Torghast, and since this is total RNG, you can get this through your first push, or it could take you a dozen of runs. Deathstrike refunds 15% runic power if it healed you for more than 10% of your maximum health. Super Strain drops from Stone Legion Generals in Castle Nathria, which for those who don't know, that'll be the first raid that drops in Shadowlands on December 8th. Your Frost Fever, Blood Plague, and Virulent Plague also applies to other two diseases that reduce effectiveness. Deadliest Coil drops from Sire Denathrius in Castle Nathria, reduces the runic power cost of Death Coil by 10, and Death Coil increases the duration of Dark Transformation by 1 second. Frenzied Monstrosity drops from Nurgash, a world boss, so make sure you keep an eye out per week so you don't miss your opportunity. Dark Transformation also increases the attack speed and damage of you and your monstrosity by 12%. Koltira's Favor drops from Sludge Fist, Castle Nathria, which is best in slot for single target. Obliterate deals 10% increased damage and has a 12% chance to refund 2 runes. Biting Cold drops from Halkias, Halls of Atonement, a 5-man dungeon in Shadowlands. Remorseless Winter damage is increased by 30%. The first time Remorseless Winter deals damage to 3 different enemies, you gain Rhyme. Chaos Theory is dropped from Sire Denathrius in Castle Nathria. Blade Dance has a 30% chance to grant you Chaotic Blades, increasing the damage of Chaos Strike by 50%, and its chance to refund Fury by an additional 60% for 8 seconds. Collective Anguish is dropped from Stone Legion Generals in Castle Nathria. Cast an I-Beam summons an allied Demon Hunter who cast I-Beam. Vengeance Demon Hunter shares a best in slot for both Raid and Mythic Plus pushes. Rizalix's Defilement drops from Zav the Unfallen in Theater of Pain, a 5-man in Shadowlands. Soul Cleave reduces the remaining cooldown on a random sigil by 8 seconds. So Guardian Druids have 2 different options for both Raid best in slot and Mythic Plus pushes. Option number 1 for best in slot raids is Drought of the Deep Focus, which is a reward from your weekly PvP or PvE completion chest. When Moonfire, Rake, Rip, or Rejuvenation are active on a single target, their effects are increased by 40%. Option number 2 is the Natural's Order's Will, and it drops from Huntsman Altamore in Castle Nathria. Barkskin reduces damage by an additional 10% when it begins or ends in bear form. You gain Iron Fur and Frenzied Regeneration. Option number 1 for Mythic Plus pushes is Ursoc's Fury Remembered, which drops randomly from Torghast. In bear form, Thrash has a 15% chance to trigger an additional Thrash. Thrash grants you an Absorb Shield for 75% of all damage it deals. Our option number 2 is the same as option number 2 in Raid's best in slot, which is Natural's Order. Cat Eye Curio is best in slot for both single target and Mythic Plus, and is obtained from Kintara in Spires of Ascension, a 5-man in Shadowlands. Clearcast abilities generate 25% of their energy cost, and your maximum energy is increased by 60. Balance of All Things drops from Torghast randomly. Entering Eclipse increases your critical strike chance with arcane or nature spells by 50%, decreasing by 10% every second. Circle of Life and Death drops from Stone Legion Generals and Castle Nathria. Your damage of time effects deal their damage in 25% less time, and your healing over time effects in 15% less time. Memory of the Mother Tree drops from Lady and Vera Darkvein in Castle Nathria. Wild Growth has a 40% chance to cause your next rejuvenation or regrowth to apply to 3 additional allies within 20 yards of the target. Dark Titan's Lesson drops from Lord Chamberlain in Halls of Atonement, a 5-man dungeon in Shadowlands. You may Life Bloom 2 additional targets at once, but Life Bloom's healing is reduced by 10%. Memory of the Mother Tree is also an option for best in slot mythic pushes. Beastmaster Hunters share a best in slot for both single target and mythic plus pushes. Soulforge Embers drops from Ingra Malak in Mist of Turnus Scythe, a 5-man dungeon in Shadowlands. Launching a flare into your tar trap causes up to 5 enemies inside of the tar trap to burn for 240% attack power and fire damage over 12 seconds. Serpent Stalker's Trickery drops from Domina, Venomblade, and Plaguefall, a 5-man dungeon in Shadowlands. Aim Shot also fires a Serpent Sting at the primary target. Surging Shots drops from Oranamonos in Castle Nathria. Rapid Fire deals 25% additional damage, and Aim Shot has a 15% chance to reset the cooldown of Rapid Fire. Nessingwary's Trapping Apparatus is purchased from the PvP vendor in Oribos. Whenever a trap is triggered, gain 45 focus and increase all focus gain by 100% for 5 seconds. Wildfire Cluster drops from Dealer Zyxa and The Other Side, a 5-man dungeon in Shadowlands. Wildfire Bomb drops an additional cluster of bombs around the target, each exploding for Arcane Harmony drops from the Mana Storms and The Other Side, a 5-man dungeon in Shadowlands. Each time Arcane Missile hits an enemy, the damage of your next Arcane Barrage is increased by 7%. This effect stacks up to 15 times. Arcane Bombardment drops randomly from Torghast. Arcane Barrage deals an additional 130% damage against targets below 35% health. Fire Mages share a best in slot for both single target and Mythic Plus dungeons. Firestorm drops from Lord Chamberlain in Halls of Atonement, a 5-man dungeon in Shadowlands. When Hot Streak activates, you have a low chance to cause all Pyroblasts and Flame Strikes to have no cast time and be guaranteed critical strikes for 4 seconds. Frost Mages share a best in slot for both single target and Mythic Plus dungeons. Freezing Winds drop from Sire Denathrius and Castle Nathria. While Frozen Orb is active, you gain Fingers of Frost every 3 seconds. Brewmaster Monk shares a best in slot for both raids and Mythic Plus pushes. Stormstout's Last Keg drops from General Cal in Sanguine Depths, a 5-man dungeon in Shadowlands. Keg Smash deals 30% additional damage and has 1 additional charge. Mistweaver Monk shares a best in slot for both raids and Mythic Plus pushes. Yu'lon's Whisper drops randomly from Torghast. Activating Thunder Focus T causes you to exhale the breath of Yu'lon, healing up to 6 allies within 15 yards for 180% of spell power. Last Emperor's Capacitor drops from Artificer Zymox in Castle Nathria. Chi Spenders increase the damage of your next Crackling Jade Lightning by 100% and reduce its cost by 5%, stacking up to 20 times. Jade Ignition drops randomly from Torghast. Whenever you deal damage to the target with Fist of Fury, you gain a stack of Chi energy up to a maximum of 30 stacks. Using Spinning Crane Kick will cause the energy to detonate in a Chi explosion, dealing 65% of attack power and damage to all enemies within 8 yards. The damage is increased by 5% for each stack of Chi energy. Inflorescence of the Sunwell drops randomly from Torghast. Infusion of Light has 1 additional charge and its effects are increased by 20%. Relentless Inquisitor drops randomly from Torghast as well. Spending Holy Power grants you 1% haste per finisher for 12 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. Holy Avenger's Engraved Sigil drops randomly from Torghast. Your Avenger's Shield has a 35% chance to have its cooldown instantly reset when used. Bulwark of Righteous Fury drops from High Adjudicator Elix in Halls of Atonement, a 5-man in Shadowlands. Avenger's Shield increases the damage of your next Shield of the Righteous by 30% for each target hit by Avenger's Shield, stacking up to 5 times and increasing its radius by 6 yards. Relentless Inquisitor drops randomly from Torghast. Spend and Holy Power grants you 1% haste per finisher for 12 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. Tempest of the Lightbringer drops from Orphiren in Spires of Ascension, a 5-man dungeon in Shadowlands. Divine Storm projects an additional wave of light, striking all enemies up to 20 yards in front of you for 20% of Divine Storm's damage. Clarity of Mind drops from Sludge Fist and Castle Nathria. During Rapture, Power Word Shield costs 20% less mana and applies 6-second longer atonements. Disciplined Priest have 2 best in slot options for Mythic Plus pushes. Twins of the Sun Priestess drops from Stone Legion Generals in Castle Nathria. Power Infusion also grants you 100% of its effects when used on an ally. The Penitent one drops randomly from Torghast. Power Word Radiance has a 50% chance to cause your next penance to be free and fire 3 extra bolts. Holy Priests share best in slot for both Raid and Mythic Plus runs. Harmonious Apparatus drops from Sire Denathrius in Castle Nathria. Circle of Healing reduces the cooldown of Holy Word Sanctify. Prayer of Mendon reduces the cooldown of Holy Word Serenity. And Holy Fire reduces the cooldown of Holy Word Chastise by 4 seconds. Shadow Priests share a best in slot for both single target and Mythic Plus pushes. Eternal Call to the Void drops from the Council of Blood in Castle Nathria. Mind Flay and Mind Seer have a chance to spawn a Void Tendril or Void Lasher that channels at your target for 15 seconds, generating 3 insanity every second. Assassination Rogue shares a best in slot for both single target and Mythic Plus, but also have 2 different options for Mythic Plus pushing. Zoldyck Insignia drops randomly from Torghast. Your poisons and bleeds deal 30% increased damage to targets below 30% health. Mythic Plus option number 2 is Mark of the Master Assassin, which drops from the Affront of Challengers in the Theater of Pain, another 5-man in Shadowlands. While stealth is active, and for 4 seconds after breaking stealth, your critical strike chance is increased by 100%. Outlaw Rogue shares a best in slot for single target and Mythic Plus, but also has 2 options for Mythic Plus pushes. Celerity drops from Ventunax in Spires of Ascension, a 5-man in Shadowlands. Adrenaline Rush increases your damage by 8%, and you have a chance while Slice and Dice is active to gain the Adrenaline Rush effect for 3 seconds. Mythic Plus option number 2 is Mark of the Master Assassin, which drops from Affront of Challengers in the Theater of Pain, another 5-man in Shadowlands. While stealth is active, and for 4 seconds after breaking stealth, your critical strike chance is increased by 100%. Akari's Soul Fragment drops randomly from Torghast. After using Shadow Strike or Cheap Shot, your target suffers a Shadow Strike from the shadows 2 seconds later at 25% effectiveness. Finality drops from Sire Denathrius in Castle Nathria. Eviscerate, Rupture, and Black Powder increase the damage of your next use of the finishing move by 25%. Mythic Plus option number 2 is Mark of the Master Assassin, which drops from the Affront of Challengers in a Theater of Pain, another 5-man in Shadowlands. Elemental Shaman share a best in slot for both single target and Mythic Plus pushes. Elemental Equilibrium drops randomly from Torghast. Dealing direct fire, frost, and nature damage within 10 seconds will increase all damage dealt by 15% for 10 seconds. This effect can only occur once every 30 seconds. Enhancement Shaman share a best in slot for both single target and Mythic Plus pushes. Doomwind drops from Devos in Spires of Ascension, a 5-man dungeon in Shadowlands. Dropping Wind Fury Totem grants you a 100% chance to gain Wind Fury weapon and increases Wind Fury weapon damage by 25% for 12 seconds. This effect can only occur once every 1 minute. Primal Tidecore drops randomly from Torghast. Every 4 cast of Riptide also applies Riptide to another friendly target near your Riptide target. Chains of Devastation is purchased through the PvP Honor vendor located in Ouroboros. Casting Chain Heal makes your next Chain Lightning instant cast and deal 50% increased damage. Casting Chain Lightning makes your next Chain Heal instant cast and consume no mana. Malefic Wrath drops from Sire Denathrius in Castle Nathria. Malefic Rapture increases the damage of your Shadow Bolt by 25% for 8 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. Perpetual Agony of Azjakir drops randomly from Torghast. Agony has 20% increased chance to generate a soul shard. Bale Spider's Burning Core drops from Artificer Zymox in Castle Nathria. Shadow Bolt increases the damage of your Demon Bolt by 8%, stacking up to 4 times, lasting 15 seconds. Demonology Warlocks have 3 different options for Mythic Plus pushes. Option number 1 is Grim Inquisitor's Dread Calling, which randomly drops from Torghast. Each soul shard spent on Hand of Gul'dan increases the damage of your next call of Dreadstalkers by 3%. Option number 2 is Implosive Potential, which drops off the Surgeon Stitchflesh in Necrotic Wake, a 5-man dungeon in Shadowlands. Implosion grants 1% haste for 8 seconds for each imp exploded. When this damages at least 3 targets, instead gain 5% haste per imp. Option number 3 is Relic of Demonic Synergy, that drops from Stone Legion Generals in Castle Nathria. Damage done by you or your primary demon has a chance to grant the other one 15% increased damage for 15 seconds. Cinders of the Azjakir drops from Sludge Fist in Castle Nathria. Conflagrate has 1 additional charge and has its recharge time reduced by 3 seconds. Wilfred's Sigil of Superior Summoning drops. Arms Warriors share a best in slot for single target and Mythic Plus runs. Signet of a Tormented King drops from Stone Legion Generals in Castle Nathria. Bladestorm, Recklessness, or Avatar randomly cast one of the other 2 abilities at reduced effectiveness. Fury Warrior share a best in slot for single target and Mythic Plus runs. Deathmaker drops randomly from Torghast. Rampage has a 30% chance to apply the Siegebreaker effect to your target for 6 seconds. The Wall drops from Hunger and Destroyer in Castle Nathria. Shield Slam generates an additional 5 rage and reduces the remaining cooldown of Shield Wall by 5 seconds. Thunderlord drops from Orphiren in Spires of Ascension, a 5-man in Shadowlands. Each enemy hit by your Thunderclap reduces the remaining cooldown on Demoralize and Shout by 1.5 seconds up to 4.5 seconds. And that concludes our first video on Best in Slot Legendaries on AchievementAzeroth. We hope you enjoyed the video, and we hope it was informative. If it was, please subscribe, thumbs up, and hit the notification bell down below because this is the first of many videos to come during Shadowlands. My friend and I have been waiting for this release to start this project together, and I couldn't do this without him. Any bit of support means the world to us, and we'll also be streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/AchievementAzeroth, so if you want to hang out, don't be shy. We'll also be active in reminding our followers over on Twitter at AchieveAzeroth when new videos are coming, posted, or when we're going live. So don't forget to follow us over there as well. Those links will be down in the description below. And speaking of that, if you have any questions, concerns, or suggestions, just comment down below. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the Shadowlands.